press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.
Hi students, welcome back to your social science class. Today we are going to finish the chapter social movements. We are on the last part, that is labor movements and untouchability prevention movement. In the previous class we discussed about alcohol prohibition and farmers movement. Today we will have another two and then we can wind up this lesson. Alright, now labor movements, I want you to remember back the lesson labor that we studied. Who is a labor? Who is a laborer, or what is labor? Some work that you do for a certain amount of money that you get, okay, labor. Now there are daily wage laborers. Now certain professions pay you on a monthly basis, okay, certain are contract based works, some are daily wages, some work for organized sectors, some work for unorganized sectors. So organized sectors people are a little bit safer and they have a lot of security, a little bit more security than what the unorganized sector has. So I want you to keep that lesson in mind when we deal with this movement, labor movement, okay. Now these labor movements or trade unions that are there, they represent people who are under this category of laborers who are working. Now everybody who is working is a laborer. Who is a person who is working, organized or unorganized sector, is a worker, okay, he is working. Now these labor movements that are there, why did they begin? They began for better work conditions that were there. Now if you see the construction sites, people need to have some kind of safety, isn't it, to protect themselves when they are working. In large buildings, if they have to build maybe 10 or 15 story building, if they are working on the top there on the 14th floor and something happens down, or they have, see, they don't construct walls so easily. It's just rising away of the building first, and then if you have seen how construction goes on, the ending part is what's being covered on in the building. So if in case something happens, some people fall down, some people just get stuck in between the lifts that are there. So in order to avoid all these, what kind of safety measures have been taken there? People have been going into construction sites without the helmets that are there on their heads. It is the duty of the people who are employing them to provide all these. People who are working with the electric works, do they have proper gloves to their hands? Do they have protection for their eyes? Now these movements for those purposes began to give better work conditions and for the safety of the people who are working in certain organizations. Now one is better work conditions, and then is equal pay or equal pay for equal labor. It's not a discrimination between man and woman. I gave you an example in the previous class. Daily wage laborers, men are paid more than the women. Now that has to be blamed into the systems that we have brought into, but equal pay, equal labor is what is the rule that is there. If both of them, men and women, if both of them are working at the same number of hours, both of them are working for the same kind of a job, then why not pay them equally? So these movements came into practice for that basic purpose of giving them better work conditions, making them realize that they have to be paid equally and given payment according to the job that they have done. Now if somebody is working for 10 hours, it's not that you pay them only 2,000, 3,000, but according to the number of hours they have put into for your service, according to the number of hours they are doing, you must equally pay them. Not simply pile up job or pile up work in somebody's head by not paying them properly. Nobody will be interested to work if you are not paid properly. It is the basic understanding. Nobody will be interested to give you any service if you don't give them anything in return. It's always reward. What is the reward? Payment is the reward for the service that is given. Likewise, here in these movements, they also wanted to have an organization or a place where they could go and tell their problems, and that could be dealt legally. So legal provisions were also brought into implementation of labor related legal provisions. That is, legal aspects or legal provisions related to labor had to be implemented. They wanted that to be implemented. Then these movements that were done to these trade unions were also called as labor movements. So either one of them, now it's called trade unions, but trade unions was also called as labor movements. Now, in many countries, these trade unions have turned into political parties because people have come together for a purpose there, and then they turned it into a political party that was there. Now, people have been exploiting each other in the name of money and looting people in the name of business and other things. Lot of insecurity for the workers who are working. Sometimes they are not paid properly, sometimes they are denied their salaries, sometimes even they are not paid for 3 months, and then they are told we'll pay you everything together after 3 months. Not at all acceptable. See, what I want you to think, if an organization can run and it has a certain amount of funding, it should have, because it knows that it has to pay its workers on a monthly basis or whatever. When it knows that it has to pay its workers on a monthly basis, it must somehow accumulate its funds. It can't be blaming the workers, isn't it? See, sometimes it happens, they make their workers work and then don't pay them, and then they say we're going to pay you next month because we don't have funds. See, that is not acceptable. Why did you make them work then for that 1 month? You should have given them leave, don't pay them. Isn't it? But that's not going to happen. They need their services to be done, but they're not giving any reward in return. But they'll make the person wait, make those workers wait. That cannot run, isn't it? When somebody is aware that they have to pay someone, somehow they have to accumulate their funds and make it ready for whenever they have to pay. Otherwise, not take their service. When those things happen, the worker is not interested in giving that service to you. So we don't have certain kind of systems. Okay, it is here in an Indian system. It is sometimes word of mouth, nothing documented, nothing written down. So sometimes word of mouth it goes. Sometimes whatever the boss thinks is right. Everybody must accept whatever it is. So we are not understanding the basic. Basic feeling of how services have to be rewarded, or basic understanding as to how these labor unions and other things work. Now, people have been exploited. I've been telling you, people have been exploited with money, with getting services for free. So, lot of things happening here and there. Now, industrialization, when industrialization happened, we have dealt with this in the history lessons. When industrialization happened, people moved into the industrial sectors, and here there was people stopped getting into the agriculture sector. That is not completely stopped, but less number of people took into the agricultural sector, and most of them went into the industrial sector. So there was a drop in the employments available in the agriculture sector. Industries grew, industries flourished, they had to be export and import of goods, and then work there, jobs there grew in the industries. Now, when something like that happened, there was also over-exploitation of the workers. Have you seen people who are working for 12, 13 hours at a stretch? People who are working in these industrial sectors are doing so. So much of work they have and they are burdened. See, certain professions are very pleasant, certain professions are nice. See, every profession has its own challenges, but certain professions are more pleasant than the others who have to break their head to work for hours and hours together. So we should have a specific number of hours for people to work. That's all laid down in the labor laws that are there. But implementation, see, we don't try to follow what's given. Even the traffic signal for that matter, we don't want to follow it. We just go on our own way, thinking that nothing is going to happen. But the right next moment you meet with an accident, you know, okay, I should have followed the traffic signal. When the railway gate is put, we tend to bend down and go. Why? Can't you wait for 5 minutes till the train passes away? We can. What are you going to lose in those 5 minutes? People are in so much of hurry. I don't know, when the railway gate is put, they can't wait on the other side. But somehow they must bend themselves, okay, and then they will go. They'll even move their bikes. So see, risking our lives is, they feel much easier than saving their lives. Here when the industries grew, similar kind of thing happened where people didn't want to work, children were getting into working, okay. And then I want you to read the poem Chimney Sweeper, okay. Go back and look at that poem Chimney Sweeper, and that is talking about a child who is cleaning these chimneys, chimneys that are there, and it is because of these kind of impact that is there, okay. Go and read that poem Chimney Sweeper. So exploitation of workers, exploitation of children also being called into. So children had to see, children cannot be working at a certain age. There is a certain age for you to work. So lack of money that was given, people were physically tired with what they had to do. Then they were forced to work for longer hours than usual. Now all these laborers came together and they understood that they were being exploited, so they went on to create certain kinds of movements and they wanted to oppose what was happening to them, especially the exploitation that was there. Then in the 19th century, Workers' Party and trade unions, they tried to bring in all workers from all over the world, and that is how the International Working Men's Association was the first labor union established in London in 1864. Okay. The International Working Men's Association, International Men's Working Association, was the first labor union that was formed in 1864 in London. Now, what is the main aim of this association? Was to protect their workers, protect the interest and the dignity of the workers. They wanted to make an 8-hour work shift. Okay, 8-hour work shift, that is work only for 8 hours in the day. Now after that, this International Working Men's Association, which went on to spread it to all over the world. It's always like that. See, when somebody does something good, it spreads very easily and people know all of it, okay. Then this is also done in order to protect the social security. The government of India here, when they wanted to protect the social security of the people, the government of India in 1923, they implemented this act, okay, the Act of Indian Trade Unions. Now, Act helped all the Indian trade unions. After that, they got all legislative recognitions. They got recognitions here and there, and people started to learn about it. People started to fight for it, fight against whatever is happening to them. Now, they also many other unions started to come into place, and then they spread, and people and other workers joined their hands into and continued this work that was happening. So that was labor movement. Basically, you must understand the first labor union that began, okay, 1864, and after that, why did it actually begin? So these two things, basically, if you can remember, to protect the interest of the workers, 8-hour shift that is there. Next, we are moving on to untouchability prevention movement. Now, untouchability we have discussed in so many lessons that are there, okay. Again and again, time and again, we have been emphasizing on untouchability, caste system, and other kinds of discrimination that are there. So keep all these previous lessons that we have already learned when you read this lesson. So it's all a connection that I always tell you. Now, untouchability is, see, how would you feel if you were considered somebody of a low caste and people didn't want to touch you, or even if they touched you, they felt that you are belonging to a very, they become impure while touching you, okay. Have you ever felt it Or have you ever seen people do that to other people and how their reactions are? It's hurting, isn't it? Even if somebody does to that, thinking that, okay, if I touch you, I feel impure, I'll have to go and have bath now, I'll have to cleanse myself. That's nonsense, isn't it? What is going to happen if you touch somebody? Nothing. Nothing is going to happen. They are belonging to any caste or any religion, any class for that matter. That doesn't matter. Ultimately, if that person is good, that person is always good, isn't it? So this was happening in our society, stratified society that was there. Before the implementation of the untouchables that was there, these ideas like untouchables should be untouched. Okay, they should not stand against us, they should not eat in the same plate that we are eating, they should not enter our houses. Okay, if they put their foot inside our house, it's all bad omen that's there. See, so many thoughts we have, and that's really bad thinking. We still think that today. Some places you just go into the rural, here and there in the corners you'll still find it. People don't allow them to sit inside their houses. People don't serve them food in the plates that they eat, or give them a glass of water. And water is also given like this, they don't allow them to touch the glass. There is nothing wrong in it, isn't it? Nothing wrong in accepting them. I'm saying nothing wrong in accepting them. I'm not saying nothing wrong in doing like that, but nothing wrong in accepting them as they are. After all, who has decided this? Class, community, religion, whatever. Our society has decided it. Has God come and told you, oh, you belong to me, my child? You are coming into my religion, or you are in my team. God has never told you. None of the gods have come down and told any religion. None of the gods have come down and told you, oh my child, you are belonging to me. You don't go to that team. He hasn't told you. He or she hasn't told you. Whoever it is, whichever religion. Everybody says what? Love your neighbor. Okay, be good. Every religion says it. Be good, be humble, respect the other, love your neighbor. That's it. Why can't we put that basic common understanding of all religions together? We still don't do. Because we want to fight. We want to feel we are the majority, we want to show others are the minorities. See, this is the thought that we have in the society. Now, this kind of untouchability that was there, see, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and all fought for this. So, untouchability, to remove this kind of an thought in the people's minds, also people wanted to start a kind of an organization or a council or a movement together to take that practice of untouchability and attacks, simple and different kinds of attacks that were happening on these kind of people. Now, this history of untouchability opposition movement in the somewhere around the 19th century. Now, Jyotiba Phule, he has organized this movement for the untouchables and the backward classes. If you go to your English textbook, we have had a mention of Jyotiba Phule when we read Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. We also had a mention of these kind of people in social and religious reform movements that you studied. So, connect all these textbooks and understand the lesson. Now, Jyotiba Phule wanted to oppose this Varna system that was there and show people that there is nobody who is dominant in the caste system, but all stand equal, all stand in the same line. Now, there is this Varna system, isn't it? Brahmana, Kshatriya, Shudra, Vaishya and Shudra. Okay, another one is Panchamas. So, why do we say Brahmins are, or they are the purest things, or they are very pure? Who has termed them pure? Okay, who has termed them pure, or who has termed the Shudras impure? We in the society have done that. When they were born, were they termed or were they given a tag on their forehead saying that you are impure or you Brahmins are pure? No, nobody has been given that. Just because their practices are such, we don't, Shudras are working as daily class laborers, doesn't mean you consider them not equal to you. So, these things, see, we must keep in mind not to commit these mistakes in the present and in the future years that were coming. So, in states like Karnataka, Maharashtra and Andhra Pradesh, during 1979, a system to oppose these different kinds of social systems or caste systems, class systems, movements were started. Okay, Periyar Ramaswamy started this self-respect movement in Tamil Nadu. And you want to know about Periyar, go to the lesson Social and Religious Reform Movements and read there. Okay, now Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, he also spoke on untouchability, gender discrimination. Okay, this movement also became very powerful. Go back to the lesson in your English textbook, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and have your insights from that lesson. So, see, again a mention of this is given in your English textbook as well. In a round table conference in 1930s, that's when he brought so many books, isn't it? And that's when you knew he is an voracious reader. That's mentioned there in the English textbook. A connection here into your social studies. Okay, Ambedkar called the untouchables to become the rulers of India. Okay, and he continued his fights for the Dalits, and that is why Gandhiji also emphasized on it, and he called them Harijans. Okay, children of God. All are children of God, but they were considered so low that he wanted to give them that tag to them. So much into knowing what has happened in the past has impacted what's happening and what's how we are living here in the society today. Okay. Then Ambedkar, see, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has fought a lot for these untouchables and women alike. He wanted to give women and these untouchables a place in the society, their form of respect and dignity that they wanted. Everybody has self-respect, isn't it? You cannot take away that respect from them anytime, just like that. You cannot bully them as and when you like. Okay, you cannot rag them, or you cannot say you are like this and you are like that. No, it's a kind of behavior that they have, it's a kind of personality that they have developed. Must accept it. Alright, then see this last paragraph that is there detailed in your English textbook, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. He started a periodical named Mookanayaka, and that was instrumental, or that changed the face of these social movements that were there against the practice of untouchability. He started in this Mookanayaka a periodical. He brought out a lot of emphasis on what these untouchables had to do and how they were being deprived of certain rights, what was actually happening to them, and how they must be taken up into a certain form of level. Then Gandhiji also wanted to bring India, okay, and with the nations of freedom, he wanted to give freedom to these untouchables also, the Dalits who have been considered very low. Then he was a social reformer, and even today, see, we have a lot of evil practices or social practices that are going on. Some of our traditions are of no use today, because see, we have to change with time, isn't it? So what they did at that time may not be applicable today. What we do now may not be applicable in the coming years. So we'll have to go with time, we'll have to take our lives how the journey goes. So certain kinds of movements are still there who are fighting for the rights of these people. Now see, the government has made a lot of reservations for these people. The scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, the minorities have reservations, but scheduled castes and scheduled tribes have a lot more reservations that are there. They can make their place in the government sectors. When you apply for a government job, you see the cutoff is given or whatever is given, reservations are there. Women reservations are also there. So categorization has happened because they should not be discriminated in their way. Alright, so associations have been very active in forming these thoughts or bringing out together people, making certain changes, making a plan, having a common goal of having what? Common goal of what? Common goal of making a better society, reforming the needs that are there, bringing and transforming the present society into a much, much better and a peaceful and a loving society that we would like to have. Okay, now we end the lesson here. I want you to read the lesson. So when you read this lesson, keep your first part of the textbook, your English textbook all together, and when certain paragraph comes, go and read that there. that means you register it into your brain, that's it, okay. You register it in your brain and then you can see, you can always derive ideas from that text and apply here because it's the same, it's a connection. You can at least write 2-3 points extra here from the English text because that lesson is also like that. That's a very long and a complicated lesson, not a story as such, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So you can derive your ideas from there, how he struggled for these oppressed and suppressed classes that were there. People there were fighting for the black community. How the blacks had to get their stand against the whites or stand on par with the whites. The whites and the blacks were fighting for their rights, for their ways. Here the untouchables and the Dalits were fighting for their place, okay. All right. We'll stop at this, students. Read it. We'll come up with a new lesson in the next class. We'll see where and what we have to do. Till then, read how much is done. Start preparing for your summative assessment that is there. And thank you for listening. I shall meet you in the next class.